Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our special coverage of Delta Fox versus Tempo Storm. Let's get right into the picks and bans for the final deciding game in this best-of-3 series. Delta Fox going to be back on the blue side this time, Tempo Storm on the red side, and things have changed up a little bit.
Yeah, I'd say if you look at these real quickly, both teams are mostly going for standard team fighting, team comps. On the top side, you still have a little bit of a skill matchup around this time. Gnar into Jace, generally Jace favored. Gnar is an extremely strong champion, but against some of the range matchups struggles a little bit. This time around, Jace does have some of that threat. But it's definitely like a smashing matchup. And then elsewhere, Cassio Victor, obviously a skill matchup for the most part. The bot lane, Caitlyn does outrange Lucian, but you have the extra range advantage of Bard, as well as a lot of playmaking there, something that we've seen Shifter able to carry some games on. So maybe this time around, they'll have enough playmaking for Shifter, because the Braum pick is one that doesn't do a ton. On the side of Tempo Storm, you have what is essentially one of your, successful recipes with Quas on a bit of a split pusher, playmaker on his own, the rest of the team having a really solid 4-man core.
Yeah, you got a lot of damage. You got a lot of poke as well. You have Jace, you have Caitlyn. Even Victor's got some range on that laser as well. And a solid front line with the Tahm Kench to save anybody who might get caught out. And then the Gragas, who's going to be very good at not only disengaging, but also engaging and being big and fat and up in people's faces. Whereas on the side of Delta Fox, you're a little bit more over-indexed on the damage, and your front line is kind of 1.5 with the Warwick and then the Gnar, who's going to be doing damage, and then building tank later on.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Tempo Storm has a little bit more beef on their side, but Delta Fox, no slouch on hard CC either. Lots of playmaking tools. Tempo Storm going for another kind of camp the Dyrus strategy apparently early on. He sniffed it out last time. Gonna see if he sees them coming in. No hook on this side.
But he doesn't see him.
Yeah, I think they were hoping to catch him in that brush and then maybe land a Tongue Lash to slow him down, force him to level E or flash over the wall or something like that. Unable to do that as Dyrus is camping a little bit further back, watching only that jungle entrance.
He's adapted this time. He stood very far away from any sort of early game brush shenanigans that could be happening from the side of Tempo Storm. Things look like they might be getting off to a bit more of a standard start now, as the rest of Delta Fox is kind of fanned up in that line of scrimmage. Then Tempo Storm pretty much going to be matching the same thing. Junglers look like they're going to be starting on the same side of the map as well. Potential Raptors or red buff start coming out from the side of Wiggly. Whereas we have Scar starting off on his own blue side of the jungle. Of course, Warwick won't necessarily be needing as hard of a leash. We'll see if they wind up changing anything up. Of course, we had Wiggly going for the very interesting gank path of going for his red buff and then going over for his Raptors Wolf Camp and then getting a very early gank off on the Dyrus when he was playing the Rex side pick in game number 2. And we'll see if there's any kind of adaptation to his jungle path this time around, starting on the top side as this Gragas pickup.
We'll have to see, because once again, I think the game plan out of Tempo Storm should be camp Dyrus. One, because it seems like sometimes he can kind of get caught out of position, not 100% aware of what the jungler is doing. But then similarly, it's also a pretty volatile matchup where you want the Jace to get ahead early on. So that's 2 big reasons to go for that. And Scarra, maybe sensing that, wants to get up on this top side early, tries to run into him at the red buff, but Wiggly actually started red, is on Raptors now. But Scarra sees him out, wants to get this fight going. Not actually able to find an opening, though. Wiggly gets the smite, I believe, and gets out of there.
Yeah, so Scar potentially looking for a buff-to-buff kind of path, knowing he is going to be healthier, but Wiggly maybe sniffing it out, or maybe just having the optimal jungle path to go against it. Started on that red buff, and we see them just kind of passing like 2 ships in the night. Nothing really gets done. They just say hello. Bot side on the map, though. Caitlyn advantage early on over the Lucian pickup. Of course, has the range, but as you mentioned, it's a melee support, so it has the ability to get bullied around by the Bard a little bit. And even the fact that Bard, utilizing his Cosmic Binding is going to be able to still harass down very effectively on the Caitlyn. She stands near any sort of minion whatsoever. You get the stun because it tethers to something else, so there's the potential to bully them around this time around. And Delta Fox's bottom lane has been kind of the anchor in this series against not just Tempo Storm, but in the Challenger series in general for the side of Delta Fox. They don't necessarily get ahead. Delta Fox doesn't do all too much.
And it is a hard lane to bully, to be fair, on the side of Delta Fox. You do have that nice range to be able to hit the Tahm Kench a fair amount, but if you're hitting Tahm Kench, Caitlyn's probably hitting you. He has the gray health. A lot of tools to not have to worry too much about that. But the one thing you do have with that Bard is very, very strong roaming. Tahm Kench, no slouch either, but really needs his level 6 to make that unlock for him, whereas on the side of Bard, you can basically get out of lane as soon as you want to.
And we see once again the jungler is going to be just saying hello to each other as Scar clears out not only his bottom camp for the red buff, but also getting the better of the Scuttle Crab early on. So both of these junglers not having too much early game impact besides just kind of farming up for the time being. So that means that there's no sort of early gank shenanigans coming out from Wiggly on the top side of the map to get Quas ahead, although considering how far he is pushed up on that lane, don't necessarily think he needs it. Instead, kind of just shadowing where Scarra is going to be moving on the map. It's actually Scarra just in tow of Wiggly. Wiggly trying to get something down onto Voyboy early on. Has to pop the Ghost as well, but the Miasma goes down immediately because Scar's on the backside here. Wiggly just has to turn tail and run. So they're going to try to jump down onto Selfie. They want to get the fear off from Scara. Selfie, though, still utilizing his own Ghost. Scar's going to have to flash away, but he goes down. I didn't even see all that damage go through.
It's one of the things that happens with Warwick is that when you have that Eon, you have a lot of that CC reduction, and then you land the Fear, and you're not taking that much damage for a little while, but then out of nowhere, as soon as that Fear runs off, he gets focused down very hard by Tempo Storm. Voyboy ran out of mana. He dropped all his damage early on onto Wiggly, runs out of mana doing that, and can't really follow up on the CC that we saw come out of Scara. So a little bit of miscommunication in this mid-jungle 2v2, something that they've struggled with a fair amount over the course of the season. And here you see Scara find a nice opening, but Voy has no mana to really drop and kind of burn down the Victor there. No Q landing. And then Scara out of position, his damage reduction and fear has worn off, gets focused down. Warwick early on, not that tanky.
And double empowered auto attack coming out from Victor and Gragas. Just huge amounts of damage by coming through, like you mentioned, as soon as those resistances fell off. So Scar goes down, and of course now Voyboy has to deal with the thing everybody wants to deal with red buff Victor in the mid lane. Already has a little bit of a range advantage over him. Bottom lane, things going back and forth here. We saw QtPie starting with the Doran's shield in this matchup, since he will be the one that is taking a bit of the poke and punishment. Wiggly still hovering around the mid side here. It looks like now that things are Tempo Storm going their way once again. I mean, game number one, it was Selfie that was getting the advantages early on, whereas the other sides of the map for Delta Fox were the ones that were getting advantages. But this time around, it looks like that both of the side lanes going ever so slightly in favor of Tempo Storm, and still the first blood going down in the mid lane, this time given directly over to Selfie.
Scara not disturbed from his counter jungling though, wants to continue to be aggressive, steals away the big wolf, pulls the smaller ones around, has a blast cone to potentially get out here. Potentially. Oh.
Ooh, body slam gets stuck on the little wolf. Gragas a little bit too fat.
Would have been a little early as well. The idea there for the Gragas is to try and hit the invader during his blast cone exit. You knock him out of it with a slight knockback, and then he's still in range, hopefully to chase down a little bit more. But like you said, the wolf getting in the way, not actually able to make that one work. Scar gets out with that invade.
It's no fair. He's Warwick. He's kind of communicated in wolf language to have him block
they're like,
that.
I got you, bro.
It's collusion. That's what it is. But Delta Fox's jungler gets out with his life that time around, though he did give it up earlier for first blood. The bottom side of the map, QtPie and Shifter were able to get a bit of a shove in against the Caitlyn and the Tahm Kench. We're looking for some back opportunity since there is a decent amount of gold in the pocket here for QtPie, but Revan and Sheep making sure that they are not going to go back at different times and not going to be getting any sort of advantages against one another. Continuously pushing back and forth here, and actually Shifter and QtPie dropping low. The Tongue Lash comes out, and Shifter getting slowed up. Does want to get into Cosmic Binding to slow down into Revan, but Sheep, undeterred from this one, continuing doing his tanky Tahm Kench thing. Bard portal through the tower. He's going to keep himself alive.
Yeah, able to dodge out of the built-over Peacemaker with that one. Stays alive, but they are pretty low, very far behind in health now. Going to be hard for them to deal with this pressure that the Caitlyn lane's going to keep putting out. You have to be concerned now about a potential dive coming in, especially while Scara's up on the top side, but luckily for them, so is Wiggly.
Yeah, Wiggly potentially going to try to steal this blue buff away, at least for Scar to get. Actually, Cosmic Binding goes down onto Revan. How did Revan lose all of his HP all of a sudden? A heal afterwards. The Ignite comes out as well. Revan taken down, but he's healthy enough to stay alive through the Ignite.
Looked like there might have been an opportunity for Delta Fox to find a kill there if they both flashed in aggressively right as they spat out the Revan. Unfortunately, unable to find that opening, and here comes Selfie.
Oh, this is one of those roams we were talking about. Didn't happen in game one. He's trying to get it on in game number 3 here. He's able to pick up a kill on the QtPie.
Second game in a row that we see Selfie make a really nice roam down to the bot side after Delta Fox has gotten aggressive. That was a really nice trade onto Revan, but unable to find the kill. They end up down a couple summoners. They don't have a flash available. They find a kill. Now they want to roam back to the mid lane.
Oh, Tahm Kench brings Selfie with him as well. Paralyzing Gaze only lands on the one, but a good flash over the wall from Voyboy. Miasma follow after. A flash forward from Revan, and the ace in the hole lands. Voyboy goes down.
The coordination of the Tempo Storm is very impressive. Anytime that they find an opening in one place, they instantly want to snowball to another point on the map. Mid lane, they already won the 2v2 early on. That gives them an advantage in the, with Selfie having that kill, able to push out and roam down to the bot side, gets a kill down there, and then they instantly flip that back to the mid lane to punish Voyboy for trying to push and punish the roam that came out of Selfie.
This time around, Tempo Storm looks like the start from game number 2 and here in game number 3, although this time around it's not camping Dyrus. It's getting kills in pretty much every other lane on the map. Mid lane, bot lane, and the jungle lane are all going in favor of Tempo Storm.
The jungle lane.
I said all the lanes, so I might as well just follow through with it at that point.
And a big thing that's going on is Quas is winning the top side on his own. We talked about potentially wanting to snowball there, but they found some opportunities around the mid lane. Once again, we also know that Tempo Storm loves playing around Selfie.
Oh, and actually the gravity field's going to stop Scar's ultimate from going through. Actually, didn't want to use it, was only on the Q. Tempered Fate comes in from Bard, stops Sullivan from dealing some damage, but still doesn't go down. Sheep in the meantime is going to follow through, tries to flash forward to dodge out the Cosmic Binding, will still gobble up Scar and spit him out and actually seal the deal on the kill as well. Sheep, though, no great health left available. Voyboy picks up a kill for himself.
Pretty scrappy jungle invade there on the side of Delta Fox. Scarra drops down low early on, but heals up a lot from his ultimate. And then he was still out of position, but a nice Bard ultimate hit only Selfie, which stops a lot of the return damage coming in and punishing Scarra. That bought enough time for that escape. So as you see, they want to get onto Wiggly. They want to blow him up. Nice body slam stops the Q damage, and then Scarra, caught out of position, needs to ult, lands onto Wiggly, gets him low, and then there, that Bard ultimate hitting only Selfie stops any of that kind of cleanup damage that should kill Scarra. That forces a much longer chase out of Sheep. Also a nice binding, stuns him after he comes out of the portal. It delays it long enough for the rest of Delta Fox to collapse onto him and trade 1-for-1. A lot of work out of Shifter just to make that go even.
So an even trade goes for the side of Tempo Storm, as they already actually get the blue buff on the onto Selfie after that one. So they do come out with the advantages they wanted while Delta Fox was trying to stop that. But like you mentioned, it was still a trade-off in support for a jungler. Tempo Storm, though, going to try to keep this pace up, have about a 1,500 gold advantage. We're 11 minutes into the game. It's not the same kind of gold lead they had in game number 2 quite yet. They're not nearly as dominant as they were in that matchup, but still have huge map advantages. Mountain Dragon is the trait that is available on the map for them to try to get, and they are going to be focusing their efforts around vision control on this bottom side. Whether it's going to be pick somebody out or get themselves an objective, it's up to them. Right now, they're just continuously invading down, making sure that Delta Fox cannot see anything, such as them catching on the Shifter right here. Explosive Cast can make sure he doesn't use the Bard portal. Does wind up happening a little bit later on, though, but Ace in the holes, not able to connect for the kill. Instead, Wiggly flashes forward and picks up Shifter.
Nice vision control on the side of Tempo Storm. They know that this dragon's going to be a pretty big objective to fight over. They land that. Meanwhile, on the top side, Dyrus getting jumped on.
Quas getting a lot of damage down, but a hop away there from Dyrus. QtPie, in the meantime, is all by his lonesome. 4 members strong from Tempo Storm going down to him. And actually now, there's a Warwick chasing down on the Quas. Does get it knocked back away from the hammer form of Quas. And so while Scar's trying to make a play happen on the top side, they pick up the kill on the QtPie, and looks like they might be getting another tower. The first tower of the game on the bottom side.
One of the things that worked so well for Delta Fox in the first game was that whenever they were getting punished on one side of the map, they were always trading relatively effectively on the other. This time around, Scarra does almost find an opening onto Quas, but he had chunks Dyrus down low enough that there was no follow-up, so it was basically trying to get a solo kill. You see the disengage come out of Quas with that knockback, and then there's no more gap closing available for Scarra, unable to find that cleanup kill. And after that, Tempo Storm got the kill on the bot side, like you said. They grabbed first turret advantage, and now they're going to grab a Mountain Dragon as well.
Pretty much got everything they wanted, including the kill on the Shifters a couple seconds ago. They've gotten 2 kills, a tower, and a dragon for no real big response coming out from the side of Delta Fox. Delta Fox is going to steal away a red buff for their troubles, but still, a lot of advantages going in favor of Tempo Storm. Gotten now a 3,000 gold lead, so they ever so much are more and more increasing what they got, and doing it so because of things like this and their vision control.
That's one thing is you see Tempo Storm coordinating well between their jungler and their support, making this happen. Scarra was moving up to the top side as you see Shifter on his own trying to go for vision control. It's one of the things that is super important in competitive play, even in solo queue, to be honest, is to make sure that you link up with this other member of your team, the other guy who wants to go roaming around for vision control, and work together to get it. They don't quite do that. Shifter goes down early on, and then QtPie's caught out in the bot lane all by himself.
You always want to bring a buddy, and so Voyboy's bringing Shifter into the mid lane, and Miasma goes down, the Paralyzing Gaze down as well, and Selfie gets saved by Sheep. He brings his own buddy to the fray, but the Ignite's going to tick down while Selfie's in the belly, and he wants it going down no matter what.
Almost get that Tahm Kench annoying Devour in to save a teammate, but Delta Fox with that dot, able to finish him off. They had the Ignite, they had a little bit of poison ticking onto him, they get the kill. It looks like Tempo Storm has enough members around the mid lane to make sure that that doesn't snowball into an objective, but now Dyrus wants to find opening onto Revan.
Ooh, a flash. Gnar is flashed away there by Revan, but he's going to get collapsed on now. QtPie and Shifter. Shifter taking up the tower. A heal comes out here from Revan trying to get the kill. Actually, Shifter is the one that secures the kill there. Kill secure from the support bar.
He tried his best, Tom. Don't give me this kill secure. He tried to hand that one over to QtPie,
I mean,
unable
it
to do
was
that.
secure.
It was secure, but
Take it.
it's one of those things that's often said facetiously. And I don't want you guys to think that Shifter was being bloodthirsty there.
All right, whatever you say, head analyst. There's a teleport being canceled in by Dyrus, trying to save that bottom lane tower, but it will wind up going down in favor of Tempo Storm. So a tier 2 tower goes down before Delta Fox is actually able to take a tier 1 tower on the top side of the map, which they will do here, as Shifter and QtPie will eventually take this down. But it's also going to be Rift Herald going to be the focus here from the side of Delta Fox. Scar starting this one on all by himself. Warwick has a decent amount of sustain. Tempo Storm's in the area, however. For the rest of Delta Fox from the top side of the map collapsing down, it looks like that they're being zoned out by Voyboy at the same time, so Delta Fox actually going to wind up getting an objective for themselves, this one being the Rift Herald.
Overall, nice couple minutes here out of Delta Fox. They find the pickoff around the mid lane. Once he's down, they continue roaming up to the top side, find a second pickoff and a turret and a Rift Herald. Still behind in the game overall, down 2K, and looks like they're going to lose a mid lane turret, but they're going to keep trying to pick on Revan.
Yeah, Revan actually looks to be the focus here. Scar is going to want to go for the Infinite Duress, misses, but dresses right into QtPie. The fear is going to land, however, and even though the culling is a couple shots wide to the left, they're able to pick up a kill onto Revan. The rest of Tempo Stormers responded by taking a tier 2 tower in the mid lane, so they've taken 4 towers now off for the trade of 2 Revan kills, a tower in the top lane, and a Rift Herald.
Really putting that early Mountain Dragon to work. Usually you don't get the opportunity to use it quite this much, but Delta Fox's plays always take a little bit longer. They don't quite have as many people on the other side of the map to try and defend, and as a result, Tempo Storm grouping up and finding the opportunities to kind of melt down these turrets early on. 15 minutes in, already 4 turrets taken. The gold lead up to 3,000 again now, so as much as we are praising Delta Fox for bouncing back into the game, probably spent a little bit too much time making these plays happen.
Yeah, well, the thing is now Tempo Storm have taken down all the towers on the bottom side, all the towers on the mid side that aren't, are outside of the base of Delta Fox. And now, if for Tempo Storm, the easiest way to go is you take down the towers that are remaining on the top side of the map, but Delta Fox kind of knows that's where you're going to wind up going. So if they're able to establish vision control on the top side of the map, they could force Tempo Storm into the state where they stall out ever so slightly. They have a Cassiopeia on the side from the side of Delta Fox, so that's going to be scaling into the later game very well. But you mentioned Delta Fox still about 3,000 gold behind, but that's at the deficit of 3 towers. Tempo Storm doesn't have a lot of those easy objectives to push this lead forward.
Not quite. Dragon will be coming up relatively soon, I believe. You also have the fact that the Jace is still pretty far ahead of the Gnar, already completing his Death Dance. Gnar working on his first item, and so you might end up in a situation where you can have Quas kind of work on these split push situations and pull Dyrus down, and then your 4-man is still relatively strong. Revan, he's been getting bullied a little bit, but Selfie, very, very strong overall. Just need to be careful about the playmaking that comes from Delta Fox now that there are so many turrets down on the map. Shifter has a lot more room to play with that Bard.
Yeah, and this Death Dance build coming out from Quas is fairly interesting. We've seen the adaptation to top lane or solo lane Jace going for a Blade of the Rune King has kind of been more popular recently, but Quas has his interesting picks, has his interesting item builds. But Frozen Mallet on Jax last game, why not go for a Death Dance on Jace? It's got CDR, it's got damage, it's got sustain. Makes it so that the Gnar's auto attack trades won't be as powerful because of the bleed effect. I can dig it. I can get behind it.
It's definitely something you can use. I wouldn't mind it seeing the Blade of the Rune King first, just because you know that the Gnar is going to build so much health early on. Going for that Black Cleaver first, usually going Frozen Mallet, but even no matter what second item he gets, it almost always has health as well. So Blade of the Rune King still generally considered a little bit better of an item, as we see Shifter forcing the flash out mid with a Bard ultimate. Death Dance does have a lot of really nice stuff, as once again, another opportunity.
Ooh, and Scar is going to want to pouncing down onto Selfie in the mid lane, uses his own flash because Selfie has none for himself, and Voyboy picks up the kill, so now comfortable 2-1-1 on the Voyboy Cassiopeia. QtPie in the meantime doing QtPie things top side, split pushing away on this top side of the map, but Delta Fox making things happen in the mid lane. They still have that Rift Herald available. Scar has it in his trinket slot. We'll see if they try to utilize it somewhere on the map. He's moving up towards that top side where QtPie is pushing down and pings are going down on that tower. Let's see if they wind up utilizing it on the top lane here, and will be channels, so it looks like they're going for a tier 2 top.
Delta Fox did a really good job there of forcing out a summoner and instantly punishing it right after. They do have 2 very easy go buttons. Something that we said they might have lacked a little bit in their previous game was that while they did have a really nice team comp, it didn't really fit their style, where it's a super control focus. they had their best game in game 1 when they had the Kalista and the Blitzcrank able to force plays. This time around, the Warwick and the Bard able to do that here in the mid lane, where they instantly blow the flash with the Bard ultimate, re-gank it immediately with the Warwick ultimate and get a kill.
Meanwhile, that Rift Herald usage in the top side of the map was a little more sad than I thought it could potentially be, as it Quas knocks it to the opposite side of the tower and just exposes the eye for him to just wail away on. Meanwhile, Delta Fox, they're still making things happen on the map. They move immediately from that top side down and take the Ocean Drake.
Yeah, you see them pull up a lot of Tempo Storm's focus to the top side of the deal, like you said, with that Rift Herald. Goes down pretty easy, but it does pull people up there so they can grab that Ocean Dragon. Not a super important objective, not quite the level of Infernal, but you're going to take what you can get here, as they're looking like Cutie Pie might have been caught a little bit out of position.
Ooh, he went forward, didn't realize Wiggly was in that brush, but the rest of Delta Fox is collapsing on him. This one, Cutie Pie's able to stay alive, just teleport being channeled from top lane of Quas as he took down that tower. Wiggly dropping about half HP. Tempered Fate comes in immediately on the Quas. There's no damage coming out from the Jace, but as soon as that fades away, the fake Zanyas will give way to Quas picking up a kill on Skara.
Really nice teleport in out of Quas there. Delta Fox wanted to make a play onto Selfie, but at the same time, Tempo Storm had similar ideas. You saw Wiggly was already on his way down there too, so they get the jump on the Cutie Pie, chunk him low and force him out. Also, you had Quas teleporting in, but that does potentially open up this top side to getting a play made on them.
Ooh, the Gnar immediately after the spit out comes in with a flash away from Revan. Going to keep himself alive. Now Sheep's trying to get away, but there's no blast cone for himself. Shifter's like, no, I want to give you guys this kill. I don't want it. Just zones him away. His boy was able to pick it up for killing.
This time, actually able to hand the kill over. Shifter trying to be the good guy, but the world's just making him be the bad man sometimes.
I don't know. He's able to give the kill over to Voyboy, who now very quietly has become 3-1-1 for himself. Has the Rod of Ages stacking away. Has a Tear of the Goddess. So this Cassiopeia could potentially be transforming into a pretty large late game threat, as we're going to watch this play unfold once again, as both these teams kind of had the same idea.
Yep, you saw the fact that Shifter wanted to go for a wraparound onto the Victor there, but the Gragas was ahead of the play, hops on the Shifter, or excuse me, Cutie Pie early on, forced them out of this fight when it still could have been decent for them. But you don't see Dyrus teleporting in, so they do have an even number fight. It could have potentially been in favor of Delta Fox, but he doesn't join. And then when you combine the fact that Cutie Pie was forced out early on, it's an easy chase down for the side of Tempo Storm. They grab that one kill, but their bot lane does not back off appropriately. Dyrus engages up on the top side. Voyboy has been roaming up, and they're able to join in on that kill and get one answer kill back. Yeah,
so answer kills have kind of been what's been happening in the state of this game. Now, all of a sudden, it's gone from what was a 3-0 game in the favor of kills at Tempo Storm is now 7-6. The gold lead still heavily in favor of Tempo Storm, but Delta Fox matching them kind of blow for blow at this point in time. Now continuing to pressure down to Selfie, who while he's pushing, kind of all by himself, is going to be exposed here. Voyboy takes a large chunk of damage though, and Tahm Kench showing up with Wiggly. They wind up getting the Tempered Fate down onto Tom, so he's not able to really gobble up Selfie here until the absolute last minute, but Dyrus is coming in, he's ready to transform, but he's bringing Revan in with him. Gnar against the wall, picks up a kill onto Selfie. Paralyzing Gates comes out as Voyboy's healthy enough to rejoin the fray, as Wiggly's taking a lot of damage, and Wiggly will go down to the rampaging Voyboy.
A really nice pick off there by Delta Fox. You saw it was a pretty long setup play where we had the Bard portal being used to get the back angle onto the Victor, someone that they keep trying to pick off in a side lane. This is one of the reasons Victor does not like being in a side wave. And with that fight winning around the top side, Delta Fox trying to convert that into a Baron.
The Baron's going down pretty quick. They got a Cassiopeia and they have a Blade of the Rune King on the Lucian. The Quas on the bottom side of this fight will just kind of shock blast his way in, say hello to Delta Fox, and force them away from the Baron.
A little ambitious on the side of Delta Fox. They are not that strong in this game, as you see, still down 4,000 gold. There's also a lot of poke available if you're going to try and force the Baron against a Jace and a Caitlyn. We'll take another look at this. A good decision by Selfie to turn on the Voyboy as soon as he realizes the threat coming onto him, force the damage dealer out of the fight, and then try and kite out the two relatively low damage members on the side of Delta Fox. Wiggly unfortunately misses that ultimate before he turns back to try and peel for Selfie. They're going to be able to probably kite this one out as the rest of the people show up, but Dyrus comes in the backside as well, hits a really nice ultimate, leads to a chain CC combo onto Wiggly. He's going to get dropped as well, and then once that smite down, you see Delta Fox is hungry to get back into this game. They want to force around the Baron, just unable to do so.
And so now 4-1-2 for Voyboy's Cassiopeia. Even Dyrus having a pretty decent game. 1-0-3 on the Gnar pickup, despite the Jace kind of being the counter matchup and Dyrus being bullied around by Quas in the early game. He didn't get camped, he didn't get shut down, he didn't get, basically have it kill spoon-fed to Quas, so he's going to be able to go kind of toe-to-toe with this Jace pickup for now. Uses the Gnar just kind of disengage on top of the Boulder Toss actually sees Selfie coming around the backside, tries to get a kill on the Quas. I'd say Dyer's having a pretty good game. He winds up going down, but Delta Fox making things happen on the opposite side of the map. Sheep's going to get caught out, and he gets taken down as Cutie Pie picks up a kill for himself there.
Tempo Storm always trying to get caught out. Hold on, not quite done yet. Nice Bard ultimate.
Lands onto Revan in the follow-up Cosmic Binding. The paralyzing gauges there as well, just to make sure he doesn't move whatsoever. 5-1-2 on Voyboy's Cassiopeia.
Tempo Storm really struggling to back off on the weak side of the play. They're trying to get 2 men down onto Quas, the split pusher, get him fed a little bit more. And while they're doing that, they get caught out in their topside jungle trying to contest the vision. That almost goes even worse for them. It's still a 2-for-0, and overall on the map trade a 2-for-1.
You see Cutie Pie getting a little bit gutsy, goes forward, dashes some damage down onto the Gragas, and takes a load of pain as the rest of the team from the side of Tempo Storm shows up, Quas specifically. You see the recall is going out. Actually, Cutie Pie once again taking a shot blast to the face, trying to bait Wiggly in to go forward with a body slam. Does it for Randuin's Omen completed, unable to land the slow AoE down onto Cutie Pie, but now Delta Fox. Cosmic Binding lands on both of the members here. A fear comes out from Scar as now it's going to be the Gragas separated and goes down. So even though Tempo Storm thought they were the ones that were routing Delta Fox picks up a kill, a 6th one for Voyboy.
Yeah, and out of nowhere, Delta Fox grabs the kill lead, still down a little bit in gold, but they've shrunk it from 4 to 3K, and that's the thing. You can keep trying to use these relatively short cooldown ultimates of Scar and Shifter to find openings.
No, looks like Delta Fox hasn't done quite yet. Cutie Pie actually hasn't gone back, instead being content to just lifesteal this Blade of Ruin King off a minion. Scar goes in with the Infinite Duress, winds up landing forward down on the Selfie, and then Voyboy picks up another kill. He's godlike on Cassiopeia. All of a sudden, Voyboy has exploded on the Rift, and now Delta Fox utilizing that kill on Selfie, utilizing the pick on Wiggly from earlier. They're going to take down the tier 1 tower in the mid lane. Tempered Fate actually is going to get flashed out by Revan, but winds up landing on the Quas. He gets gobbled up by Tahm Kench though, so Delta Fox cannot chase down further.
Delta Fox doing a really good job of setting Voyboy up for success. They have so many different tools of initiation, but all of them seemingly happen around Void. And he is one of the most important members to get fed because while Lucian can snowball a little bit, he fell behind too far in the early game to have that kind of monster dash in, bork you, slow you down, and train you for kills. And there's a lot of beef on the side of Team Tempo Storm, so you're pretty happy with your Cassiopeia getting fed. Once again, they pop the Banshee's Veil off a Selfie. That lets them know that they can potentially go if they find an opening. He walks forward for some harass, ends up way in front of the rest of his team. Scar says, all right, well, we'll jump on you if you want to position that way. Good follow-up by Dyrus, flashing in and knocking him just close to the team. Doesn't need the stun, just get him into the rest of your team to get that follow-up damage, and then they get that kill, and it leads to the first turret in the mid lane.
Yeah, so Delta Fox putting on a bit of a comeback performance here. As we mentioned before, even though they are able to take the kill lead off at the back of this fight and the skirmishes beforehand, are still slightly behind in gold, about a 2,000 gold advantage in favor of Tempo Storm. Baron is a big thing on the map that has been alive for a couple of minutes. We saw Delta Fox trying to start that one up. They do burn through it pretty quick with this Baron-fed Voyboy Cassiopeia. So Tempo Storm going to have to be contesting Baron vision at all points in time, because if that area goes dark for even just 10 seconds, Delta Fox can melt down that Baron.
Very scary for the side of Tempo Storm. They do have a couple strong members still. You see Caitlyn sitting on her 3 items, obviously completely online. The Victor, despite getting picked off a number of times, has done a really good job farming, sitting at 250 CS compared to Voyboy's 200. So, the kill is obviously heavily in Voyboy's favor, and probably the gold as well, but closer than you might initially think just looking at the score lines. If we take a look at these gold graphs, you see it's actually still in Selfie's favor.
Yeah, so Selfie, CS and some assists, helping keep himself above Voyboy in this game, although Voyboy with a large amount of gold for the side of Delta Fox, even more than Cutie Pie at this point in time. As you mentioned, very important for him to get ahead, very important for him to get fed in this game. Has gone for a Banshee's Veil, so a bit of defensive itemization, but will still be getting some ability power from that, as well as a decent amount of mana pool. So when he eventually, he has to have the Saris Embrace now, so that has transformed, going to be giving him even more punch behind any sort of abilities he has. Cutie Pie, though, going to be content to kind of split push in the top lane here as well. So Delta Fox pick up yet another tower. The gold count, 1,000 gold right now, Mark. Delta Fox are mounting a comeback.
Yeah, but they still need to find an answer to Quas here. Tempo Storm has been over-fighting for the most part and kind of getting greedy whenever they're making a play in one position, someone else gets caught out. If they just slow down a little bit here and force Delta Fox to really make nice plays, as Wiggly caught out a little bit on the top side, dropped down below half. If they can just buy time for Quas to split push, he still has a really large advantage over Dyrus, almost a full item ahead. once he completes his Blade of the Rune King, and he'll have a ton of sustain, a ton of poke, and a lot of damage to take a turret down. So if Tempo Storm can keep their 4-man core alive, stop dying to these initiations that come out of Shifter and Skara, they're going to be able to kind of split push their way to victory potentially.
We'll see if Tempo Storm are going to be able to execute on that plan Quas, or they're going to be caught out around this Baron Pit area. Tempo Fate does not wind up landing on Wiggly, just body slams himself away from that one. So Shifter will be without that playmaking ability for a couple of seconds longer. Quas on the bottom side of the map is, like you said, content to split push to his heart's desire against Dyrus on this Gnar. Has a 1-level advantage for the time being, with both of them level 17 and 16 at this point, so pretty soon the level advantage won't really matter. It's really going to be about how much pressure you can apply on that map. 2-0 and 0 for Quas. Large amount of CS above Dyrus, about 50 at this point in time. The rest of Tempo Storm, though, as I mentioned, they got to keep eyes on this Baron Pit area because Delta Fox will have the ability to melt that one down fairly quickly. You need to, of course, keep eyes out to make sure they don't get picked off by Shifter, they don't get picked off by Skara jumping onto somebody in the jungle.
And one of the big things is you kind of have to play around those cooldowns. So as soon as Shifter missed that ultimate just a moment ago, that kind of told Tempo Storm, all right, we're relatively safe to walk up now. That's a lot of their initiation tools. The only one we have to worry about Skara. And to be fair, that's a pretty telegraphed ultimate. The times that it's worked has usually been after they've already forced out some summoners or someone is slightly disrespecting it. But if you're ready for it and you want to counter it out, it's not too bad, especially with a Tahm Kench around to potentially save people. So Tempo Storm, reading that the ultimate was down on Shifter, walked forward, got some vision control down, but now with it coming up soon, on the back foot again.
The blue buff on Voivoi, of course, means that Cassiopeia can basically have infinite mana if she wants to sit here and wail away on the Baron buff, and Tempo Storm know that they need to keep eyes over here. They utilize their Scribe's Orb. They wind up putting a couple of wards over the wall. QtPie continuing to kind of stay in a split push lane here, so Delta Fox in this interesting kind of 1-3-1 setup. Dyrus' Gnar kind of content to go toe-to-toe against Quas's Jace, at least for the time being, but QtPie trying to bring the Jace back in towards the top side of the map by applying pressure up there and trying to push and pull Tempo Storm away so that they give up area around the Baron, then the rest of Delta Fox can start it. If they send Quas back, then Dyrus will be able to push out on the bottom side, but neither of them really gaining all too much ground at this point. We have this interesting kind of dance going down across the map.
Yeah, both people mostly fighting over mid-wave control and then being able to dip into the jungle on this top river to try and get some vision control. This time around, Scar does land the Warwick ultimate.
Yep, presses down on Wiggly. He's going to get gobbled up by Tahm Kench. The Tempered Fate's going to be, well, I guess it's still one, as the spit out from Gragas does not spit him out in the Tempered Fate zone. Meanwhile, Tahm Kench won't want it going down, so Delta Fox has picked up a kill, and a killing spree goes over to the side of QtPie. Quas, in the meantime, getting some tower damage down as well as some Dyrus damage down. But is Delta Fox trying to go for a Baron or a fight around that at this point in time? Tempo Storm are just going to be pushing down on multiple fronts. They're taking down 2 inhibitors at the same exact time. Delta Fox, what if there's a response in order to do so? I don't even think they're doing the Baron at this point in time. They're trying to, but Wiggly all by himself is zoning them away. Tempo Storm are going to be taking the entire base if they get left alone for this one. Delta Fox finally gets the Baron. Now they lose a Nexus Tower at the same time. Wiggly pulling a hero play, keeping Delta Fox busy. The rest of Tempo Storm rush in.
Really surprising play out of Tempo Storm there. Very intelligent. You see Delta Fox committing very hard to find a pickoff, using all their tools to get just one onto the support of Tempo Storm. And because they were forcing that play without any kind of mid-priority, obviously Tempo Storm just says, all right, you can extend for that kill. We're going to run down mid. We were talking about the fact that Quas is going to have a ton of split push potential against that Gnar. You finally see it kind of take effect there, able to bully him out of the lane, take the turret on his own. That's, you know, even with the fact that Delta Fox was successfully forcing a play on the flip side of the map. It does turn out okay for them that they do grab the Baron buff, and they can potentially offset some of these super creep timings with the fact that they have their own Baron-empowered minions. But if they don't find a way to answer back some of the gold that Tempo Storm just got, they could be in a lot of trouble. The gold now down to about 2,000. Dyrus will find this turret and keep bringing things back. So, you know, despite how nice of a trade that was for Tempo Storm, they do not actually have as large of a gold advantage as they previously had.
You know, what they need to do is they need to be able to push that advantage. So it sounds really weird to be like, you took a Baron buff but lost 2 inhibitors, you're not in the worst position in the world. Although, that's the thing. Like, Tempo Storm needs to be able to push this advantage, and with the Baron buff on the side of Delta Fox, if they're able to take down these lingering outer towers, if they're able to push down on Tempo Storm's side of the map, the Baron buff minions aren't really doing anything, and then that top side of the map is just kind of left in the state that Cutie-Pie's left it, where it's slowly kind of pushing back and forth in Delta Fox's favor. So this Baron buff may not win Delta Fox the game, but it keeps them in the game. They were behind for a very long time in this game. They're clawing their way back into it. They pretty much got what they could get from that turn.
It's a very strange situation, like you were saying, because generally when one team loses inhibitors to grab a Baron, oftentimes they are ahead, and the enemy team kind of sacks the Baron to grab that inhibitor, and then you just push up the inhibitor lane that you just lost. This time around, Tempo Storm was in the lead and let that kind of trade happen, and now Delta Fox continues to close that gold advantage almost completely even now, with that Baron buff helping them grab a couple turrets. So you end up in a situation where Delta Fox has shrunk that gold lead despite seemingly losing way more objectives in the short term. The other thing worth noting, though, is that Tempo Storm with that Caitlyn pick will heavily outperform the Lucian in late game team fights, whereas Cassio and Victor are relatively even. And for the most part, despite how effective this Warwick has been, he is a little bit binary of a champion, and while he can lock down a single target, it doesn't deliver it to your team, whereas Wiggly will have that huge instant team fight winning potential with the Gragas ultimate.
So as the game goes later and later, Tempo Storm know what their plan is going to be. You still have Quas to get split push. You still have two very strong carries in the front of 4 if they want to kind of group up that way. You could also have Quas just kind of set up, and like you said, or like we said in Champions, like there's a lot of long-range damage dealers on the side of Tempo Storm. They have a very solid front line to keep them alive.
You do want to be careful, though, with that team fight. If you allow, as we see, hold on, Selfie Wong can make a play on the Cutie Pie.
Well, walking into a culling here, so Cutie Pie is going to be getting himself out of there until he runs into Wiggly. There's going to be an explosive cast and knock him back. Cutie Pie, though, staying relatively healthy. Rush with Delta Fox utilizing Cutie Pie's distraction in the top side of the map to push down that mid lane tier 2 tower. So now all of a sudden Delta Fox, wait, Delta Fox is the gold lead.
Yep, Delta Fox grabs the gold lead with this Baron. That's what I was saying as well. It seems initially like a terrible trade for Delta Fox. They lost so many turrets and inhibitors doing so. They used the Baron buff to push up those lanes, and they grab a couple turrets over the course of that Baron buff, and now in the lead. A little bit of miscommunication on Tempo Storm there. They already spent the time to kind of commit onto Cutie Pie. For some reason, Selfie turned around as opposed to just kind of following up with what Wiggly was going for. Maybe could have found a kill there, but they still would have lost that mid lane turret. Not the end of the day either way. The big concern for Tempo Storm is, while for the most part their carries will outperform Delta Fox a little bit, Quas does have a stronger team fighting champion if he can find a nice initiation, whereas Quas will always win the split push. So Tempo Storm want to keep that 4-1. Delta Fox want to find that 5-man fight.
Well, Delta Fox at this point in time are just regrouping themselves after utilizing that Baron buff to grab themselves a gold lead in this game for the first time. It's a couple hundred gold, but they're trying to hold on to it for as long as possible. Meanwhile, Tempo Storm, they know that their inhibitors down will outlast this Baron buff. So now that the Baron buff is gone, now this is advantageous for Tempo Storm. They can just group up as many people as they want, mostly 4 on the top side, push down on these last remaining outer towers. And if Dyrus comes up to try to contest them at this point in time, Quas is going to want to take a Nexus tower with this split push.
Yeah, very precarious position for Delta Fox. Even though it's nice they grab the gold lead, they do, like we said, still have to worry about this split push threat. Though if you're Delta Fox, this is one of your best positions you've ever been in to potentially win a series this late into a third game, this close of a matchup. They often would find a win early in game 1 or something, and then almost always get smashed the next few games. This time, putting up a very, very good fight in one of their last showings in the Challenger Series here against Tempo Storm.
Well, Scar is going to wind up going forward. They wind up locking down on the Wiggly. He's going to get gobbled up by Tahm Kench and just spat out on the other side of this wall. Voyboy trying to ghost into this fight, trying to get some damage down, but gets zoned out by a Victor Gravity Field. So Delta Fox thought they could find an engagement here, but Tempo Storm wisely back away after taking their 9th tower of the game.
It's one of those situations that we were saying that if Tempo Storm slowed down, it would really benefit them, because there you see if Scar starts the fight out, it's very easy to just devour the target that he's trying to go on, disengage the fight, and it's really on Shifter to find the initial opening onto somebody and allow all of Delta Fox to collapse onto that target, because you cannot devour the when your teammate is in stasis. So you buy time for the rest of Delta Fox to converge on that target, and then you might hit the Scar ultimate that sets your team up for a team fight. Well,
Delta Fox at this point have a level 18 Gnar to go up against a level 18 Jace coming out from Quas. As Dyrus has some very core itemization, has the Black Cleaver, has the Frozen Mallet. Instead of going for the Gargoyle Stoneplate this time around, has opted to go for a Randuin's Omen this time. A lot of physical damage threat coming out from the side of Tempo Storm, specifically in the 1v1 matchup. Jace has kind of gone for the, I'm going to call this the all-sustain build. He's got a Blade of the Rune King, has the Death Stance, and a Bloodthirster, so in the split push matchup against Dyrus, even if he winds up taking damage from a Dyrus all-in, if he wants auto-attacking you min, he's basically at full HP.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of the build you usually see out of something like Kalista, but if you're in full split push mode, you see it out of Fiora every now and then, all you want to do is do as much damage to the other guy as you can, sustain off the wave and keep pushing. There's no turrets really left in his lane anymore, so the effectiveness of the build drops a little bit because one of the benefits of it is that you can kind of walk into a turret, eat some turret damage, and hit the turret in response. Then you regen up, the turret stays low, and you finish it off. With how many turrets already down, though, the use case kind of drops to 0 about the amount of times you can use that left in this game.
There's only 2 left. One is defending the top lane inhibitor, and one is defending the Nexus, as the other Nexus tower has already gone down from when Tempo Storm made that call around the Baron from Delta Fox.
And, at some point you're starting to over-index on lifesteal at that point, where, yeah, you can heal up to full off a wave with just 1.5 of these items. If you have the Blade of the Rune King and the Death Stance, you're going to lifesteal all the way up. Now, if you're in a team fight and you are taking a lot of damage, you're already in a lot of threat about just getting 100 to 0 by the Delta Fox team comp. Maybe in a couple situations you kite it out and are able to lifesteal, but a lot of the time the big threat is, well, if I'm not getting all in, I already won. And you don't need that much lifesteal at that point.
Well, Delta Fox don't necessarily have a lot of lifesteal on their team, but they still have a lifeline in this one. Gold count basically even. Baron is available on the map. Elder Dragon's going to be spawning pretty soon. Both teams have 2 stacks of their elemental drakes, and actually Delta Fox starting this one up. They're going to trade Baron for Elder Dragon, it looks like here, as both teams are on opposite sides of the map. So Tempo Storm potentially looking for more of the fighting kind of style. Delta Fox may be looking for the pushing of the objectives kind of style. Actually, they might be catching down on the Dyrus. The Abyssal Voyage comes out, Selfie and Sheep down here. Dyrus going to gnaw away. He turns back around for some reason, has to flash away out of the Chaos Storm. Selfie gonna get the speed boost from hitting a minion, but decides not to run away. Winds up utilizing the Ghost in that chase as well. Delta Fox with the empowered Baron buff recalls will be down here to defend Dyrus.
Dyrus does live a little sloppy on the escape execution. Maybe could have just flashed away right at the beginning. Either way, survives critically. Delta Fox with those Baron empowered recalls, like I said, able to hop back and make sure that the rest of Tempo Storm can't swing down to that bot lane after grabbing that Elder Dragon and use that to take that bot inhibitor again. And it is a bit of a net neutral trade overall. Delta Fox has the pushing advantage now, but you're afraid of team fights potentially against the double power Elder Dragon. So this game will continue to stall out a little bit more. One of the things I was talking about recently actually is that for the team that has a bit stronger of the objective control, it actually favors the Baron buff trading team because both of these will stall out, but Baron buff will last a little bit longer, right?
Right.
And then what happens is Elder Dragon has a much longer respawn time, so the next objective will of course be Baron, and then you're forced to 5v5 for it. Ooh. So Delta Fox does have the stronger 5v5. This objective trade might favor them a little bit if they're able to stall out until the objectives are forced to respawn.
Wiggly got bound against the wall by the Katu binding coming out from Shifter. But instead, he's going to be back away. He's a very tanky Grog at this point in time. Has a Righteous Glory, Gargoyle Stoneplate, Cinder Hulk in his inventory, and be building towards even more, potentially a Warmogs with the Giant's Belt and the Kindle Gem in his inventory. But this is also kind of a game where we're at 41 and a half, 42 minutes into the game. So the next team fight, whoever winds up winning that one, if it's a significant numbers advantage, they could just potentially wind up winning the game from this point forward.
And this is what we were saying for Delta Fox, is they haven't really had a series-winning team fight situation yet where you are so close in this game that anyone going down, it might even just take a single kill to really take the game completely in your favor. A lot of these guys are very, very experienced. You have to think that they still can rely on some of that in these kind of situations to remain calm and look for the right opening to blow the game open in their favor.
No, to be fair, Delta Fox hasn't had a series win, let alone a series winning team fight.
Well, I'm saying there haven't been in many positions to show their clutch factor as they're all experienced pro players. They have mostly, like we said, after a win in game 1 or something, lost the next 2 pretty convincingly. Tempo Storm, on the other hand, this is a really big match for them to win, not necessarily in terms of standings, but because they want some good momentum heading into the playoffs. And if you lose a match to the winless Delta Fox in terms of match wins, it can't leave a good taste in your mouth.
Nah, not at all. So Tempo Storm are going to be looking to close this one out. It's already pretty dangerous enough that it's gone this late and that Delta Fox was able to grab the gold lead back away from Tempo Storm, that they're surviving at this point in time after taking down 2 inhibitors even. So Delta Fox hungry for their first win in the North American Challenger Series. Tempo Storm hungry to keep pace with GCU and potentially force, you know, a third or second place finish coming out from Tempo Storm, depending on how GCU did earlier today. Tempo Storm actually backs against the wall. The other one's being pushed in because of this Baron buff. You mentioned the Baron buff lasting longer than the Elder Dragon. Elder Dragon has been gone for a while. The Culling comes out. Tempered Fate lands on 3 people. This could be the fight that Delta Fox needs. The Cosmic Binding lands as well, and Scar goes in for a big belly slam. Knocks them all back. Gargoyle's Stormblade has been popped, but so has Wiggly. Voyboy goes legendary on the Cassiopeia. They pick up 1 kill, but can they break the base?
The Baron buff has timed out. They no longer have that to use to continue to push, but they do have a Ocean Dragon that can sustain a little bit up. They also have the fact that Cassiopeia, Warwick also have natural sustain, so they might be able to keep pushing here. We talk about 1 kill maybe being enough. That is the only true frontline member on the side of Tempo Storm. Delta Fox might be able to find an opening here off the back of that pickoff.
They got to be a little bit careful. They're trying to fight over the wall, and the Caitlyn traps are all set up to defend this top lane tower. It's about half HP. They're going to be utilizing the Bard Pole just to rotate around a little bit. Jace Shock Blast in combination with the Acceleration Gate gets a decent chunk of damage down. The wave clear is strong from Tempo Storm, so like you mentioned, without that Baron buff on their side, Victor's going to be content to just wave clear for days. Caitlyn can just sit back and wave clear for days with her Piltover Peacemaker. So at this point, Delta Fox, despite picking up a kill, they have to back away.
Still pretty hard to break the base, like you're saying, with all that wave clear. Also, just in terms of the actual poke available, Delta Fox's comp largely outranged. The Shock Blast hits pretty hard. Victor Laser obviously hits very, very hard, and Caitlyn auto attacks are no joke. So, let alone the wave clear, if you walk up to hit the turret with a wave, you're still going to get chunked out as well. A nice pick off there, potentially game-winning team fight. Maybe a little bit of missed synergy between the Bard ultimate and the Cassio ultimate. But at the end of the day, still in a decent position. Didn't quite get any summoners on carries that you might want. Voyboy did lose his. This is a bit of a precarious position now, with Wiggly maybe being able to find an opening.
Still what Banshee's Veil picked up for Voyboy, so he's somewhat protected. Has a Saris Embrace too, but Baron buff, as you mentioned, since that went down, has a lower respawn timer, will be available in about 1 minute and 40 seconds. Delta Fox, in the meantime, has kind of split the map up once again, and don't want Tempo Storm to be able to collapse on them in any sort of which way. So Cutie Pie in the bottom lane with Shifter, Voyboy in the mid lane with Skara, and then Dyrus kind of lagging a little bit behind in the mid lane now. So it's going to be another outer tower going down for Delta Fox, the last remaining one on the map for Tempo Storm, actually. So it's 6 towers to 9 now. Delta Fox pushing up on multiple fronts, trying to kind of spread Riven thin, because whichever lane doesn't have those Caitlyn traps kind of set up and deterring them will be the one they want to push forward and get some damage out on the towers with the Lucian.
And like we said, it feels like Delta Fox has most of the control at this point, and that's why the shorter respawn timer of the Baron buff favors them. When you do that objective trade, you just stall out, you wait for it to neutralize, and now, given the fact that they are the stronger 5v5 team fighting team comp, hypothetically, assuming both teams execute relatively well, it's going to be hard for Tempo Storm to really contest this Baron if Delta Fox is able to find a good turn. They have the Shifter ultimate, they have Scar's ultimate, and they just also have a ton of burn damage, so you have to contest that Baron quickly if Delta Fox sets up around it in the next 30 seconds.
Yeah, and Delta Fox, mentioning the Tempered Fate coming out from Shifter, is also going to have a really good way to stop Tempo Storm from doing it. Actually, Quas trying to get the split push down. Once getting stopped up by the Tempered Fate himself, has to burn the QSS to get out of here. They're actually going to want to get a kill onto Quas. Now the Abyssal Void just come in. Cutie Pie has to try to flash over the wall. Shifter's trying to weave them on a wild goose chase, which could potentially open up Delta Fox to the Baron, but they're actually collapsing on the bottom side of the map. Selfie picks up a kill, so they traded support for top laner.
Really surprising play out of Delta Fox there, going to force down onto Quas, trying to pick off the split pusher. Tahm Kench able to bring in Selfie to even that trade out. You saw him almost able to insta-give Cutie Pie, who is luckily able to live. They only lose Shifter. Now Delta Fox is trying to force down this Baron without one of their biggest playmakers available. This could be very dangerous.
Yeah, this is very, very dangerous from Delta Fox. Quas is dead on the side of Tempo Storm, though, so they don't have a damage dealer. Scar's in the Baron pit, so the rest of Tempo Storm is here. Where's Cutie Pie? Cutie Pie's on the bottom side of the map. Delta Fox are in a 3v4 situation. They basically leashed the Baron at this point. The Voyboy's going to want to pick up a kill on Tahm Kench, but Wiggly gets the Baron for themselves. Now Tempo Storm are trying to fight Delta Fox. Voyboy pretty much all by himself now that Scar has gone down for a double kill. Cutie Pie's still split pushing in the bottom lane. He's picked up a kill on the inhibitor, but Delta Fox have lost more than half their team.
We talked about this trade just a couple minutes ago. It favors the team that gets the Baron buff. They're going to be able to use this to push up. Cutie Pie doesn't want to look like he's done yet. And Delta Fox opts into a split push situation despite the superior team fight.
Trying to trade on the Quas. Quas goes in. Cutie Pie taken low. Cutie Pie gets killed. Jace shuts him down! There's Baron buff in the mid lane!
And Tempo Storm's going to try and push up right now. Voyboy and Shifter are the only two alive. There's only one inhibitor turret down. Quas is going to teleport in.
Quas is TPing in. There's one tower left alive. It's all up to Voyboy and Shifter. Can they defend? The Tempered Fate's already been used. Shifter goes down. Voyboy is surely going to fall, but the Nexus falls first. And with that Baron call, with the split push, Delta Fox lose the series.
In the most tragic fashion available, Tempo Storm able to clutch that out at the very end. Felt like Delta Fox wasn't 100% sure of how they wanted to close that game out. Maybe they weren't confident in their 5v5 team fighting. Instead, they go for a split push play to try and pick off Quas and get a 4v5. I can appreciate that idea. You have a lot of playmaking to go for it. But after it ends up a 1-for-1 where you trade your support for their top laner, go back to Baron and Force. Overall, not a bad idea. And you can maybe get the turn-off. You still have the Skara ultimate available. Instead, QtPie does not join up with the team. He stays around the bot lane. And while it's nice he's able to split push down an inhibitor, we already talked about how much this favors the Baron buff team. And there you see it go over because they don't have enough to keep Skara on the Baron. He drops, they lose the Baron, and then they just run up mid after QtPie loses the 1v1 to Quas.
They killed Quas in a 1v2 situation. They lost Shifter, but the rest of the team was moving on over to kind of help out the bottom lane fight instead of just taking the Baron that they were setting up for the entire time.
Well, to be fair, the Baron buff was only respawning in about another 15 seconds, so they couldn't have, traded Shifter's life directly for the Baron, but at the same time, you can start bringing QtPie down to join up with the rest of your team, and then 4v4 potentially around the Baron buff, given the fact that, like you said, it's a Bard for a Jace, overall pretty good trade, and then you can win that fight.
It was just very frustrating to see the split decision making really cost Delta Fox a game. They clawed themselves back into a gold lead, and they were down for the 30-something minutes of that game, came back into this one, utilized Baron trade good, had 2 inhibitors down at one point, and still were able to gain the gold advantage, and can't close it out.
Just can't quite close it out. But overall, probably the best showing we've seen out of Delta Fox. You have to appreciate the amount of grit that they kind of showed in that game, given the fact that they're already knocked out of the playoffs. They're just playing for pride at that point, and almost able to take a series off the 3rd-seeded Tempo Storm, and they got some work to do if they want to, really make a good big run in these playoffs. Tempo Storm, they're able to win, but it wasn't off the back of a great play that they forced. It was off a big mistake out of Delta Fox.
Yeah, we could touch upon Tempo Storm in just a little bit because with the final week of the regular season complete and all of our matches finally finished, let's see how the teams wind up finishing. It's United that claim 1st place, followed by Goldcoin United in 2nd place. So Tempo Storm will wind up ending in 3rd place, unable to catch GCU. That means Delta Fox lost again today. Sorry, Mark. With Big Gods Jackals rounding out the playoff picture, while CLG Academy finished just above Delta Fox by 2 match wins.
Yeah, and those top 4 playoff teams will advance to next week's semifinals. 1st seed E United will rematch against Big God Jackals on Wednesday, while Goldcoin United will face off against Tempo Storm on the other side of the bracket.
Yeah, so that's, of course, is basically a rinse and repeat of the matchups that we saw in the playoffs. Last Challenger split was a United versus United final, and with the performance that Tempo Storm just had against Delta Fox, what are your thoughts on the potential finals matchup this time?
I mean, I think you're looking at another battle of the Uniteds. GCU has been trending upwards over the course of the season. Very similar story to last time around, with Tempo Storm kind of holding where they were at the start of the split and not improving a ton, it seems like, or struggling to adapt to some of the meta changes that have happened. United, I think heading into today and yesterday we would have said is the clear favorites, but now they lost to GCU, and against Big God Jackals, they were very, very close to dropping that 2nd game.
Yeah, so we'll have to see how things plan out. It's going to be best of 5s when we get to the playoff picture as well, so things could change up a little bit. Best of 3s, they got an extra match on the line for that one. There's more league action just around the corner, so fret not if you're a little upset the Challenger Series is done for tonight. The return of the NALCS starts tomorrow afternoon, where CounterLogic Gaming will look to keep a hold of 1st place against FlyQuest, but Immortals is hot on their heels to close the gap against Delta Fox.
You gotta be
Echo Fox.
Echo Fox. It's all right. Who wouldn't mind seeing Delta Fox in the LCS? Obviously, Immortals. We want to see how they bounce back after a pretty rough week right before Rift Rivals. They have that off time to try and figure out what went wrong, but sometimes it can also work in the opposite, where you go out on the 0-2, you start wondering what's going wrong, and then you have a really long period before you get back on that big stage and prove yourself.
Yeah, and of course in the CLG matchup, we have them going against FlyQuest, who are at the bottom of the standings for the NALCS, but CLG themselves are kind of just motivated from the fact that NA won Rift Rivals. Now they themselves are on the top of the standings. They want to kind of get back to that world stage because they missed out on MSI this year. They missed out on the Rift Rivals this time around, and they're hungry to get back to that world stage. And they were able to decimate FlyQuest, that could be a very interesting thing just to see the ramping up the power level of CLG.
Yeah, I mean, CLG looked like one of the best teams at the very start of the split with their explosive victory over C9 and have been kind of keeping up that level of play all split long.
Yeah, so that's going to be, of course, the matches starting tomorrow for the North American LCS. Meanwhile, thanks for sticking around with Mark and I, and hope you enjoyed our special coverage of the Delta Fox versus Tempo Storm series. Now, on behalf of myself, Mark, and the entire Challenger broadcast crew, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week for the semifinals. But Quad's going to continue to go in here. Double flash to stun, to knock up the everything. First blood goes over to Quas at level 2. But now Voyboy and Scar have joined the fray, and everybody from Tempo Storm wishes that they could run away. Double kill picked up there by Scara. Another one goes over to Cutie Pie as he's going to hop, skip, and jump forward onto Selfie. We talked about the synergy between these two early on. It's going to continue here as Rek'Sai goes on the hunt, but here comes Jax, a flash and a stun. There are the kills coming in one after another. A double kill picked up for Revan. Scar goes over the infinite duress, winds up landing forward down on the Selfie, and then Voyboy picks up another kill. He's godlike on Cassiopeia. Now Tempo Storm are trying to fight Delta Fox. Voyboy pretty much all by himself now that Scar's gone down for a double kill. And with that Baron call, with the split push,